Hi, welcome to the Gastroenteritis Blues. My name is Steve Lippman. I'm joined by only Emily Cannell, as Dan Bopone is off studying for a big exam that he has on Monday, and we here wish him nothing but the best.
I wish Dan all the luck in his test, but I do have to say he was tweeting a lot during that basketball game for someone who was studying.
Good point. That's a good point. He was tweeting a lot, but we hope now during the time that he would be podcasting that he's studying.
Great.
And Emily, my first question to you is, have you ever seen Love is Blind on Netflix?
Absolutely. Of course I have. It's me you're talking to.
Let's
but I haven't watched season 2 yet.
Oh, you gotta.
Did you watch season 1?
Did I watch season 1? Is water wet? I mean, come on. It's great.
Jessica gives her dog wine. Would you give Rainey wine?
Gives her dog wine. Was she arrested?
No. She's like, she loves wine. And people are like, that's incredibly toxic and can like ruin your dog's kidneys. But
dogs eat shit too. You shouldn't give them that either. Dogs eat anything.
Yeah. She loves wine.
She loves wine. It's great.
I need to get Jordy's away on a bachelor party this weekend. So that's like a show that we watched together. So we haven't really been able to get into it.
It's really great. It's my favorite thing is when, they sort of narrow it down to 2 people and they ask one person to marry them and the other person says, I don't think so. The person who asked goes, boy, well, I'm on this show and I feel like I'm supposed to ask somebody to marry me. And they go to the other person and they're like, what about you? You want to marry me? It's like, why don't you just leave the show? Like, you don't have to. Like,
no, I have to. Oh my God. What a show. What a concept.
God, it feels so sad. But also, they probably don't have to do any real jobs after that, regardless of what happens with the relationships, right?
Yeah. And like, I think at least one of the relationships from season 1 is still going. So
they're very famous. The Cameron and Lauren.
Yes.
Good for them. If one of them has a relative from Philadelphia, we can see if they want to come on.
They're more than welcome to.
Anyway, the Sixers traded for James Harden this week, and they played basketball this week.
But we let off with Love is Blind.
Mm-hmm. They let me break later. They lost to the Suns. They lost to the Phoenix Suns before the trade deadline. So who gives a fuck? And then they played the Thunder. They beat them in sort of a game where they played down to the opponent and then pulled it out. Were you at that game?
No.
Wasn't that a game that you and Zainab were going to go to? There was some conversation about that.
We were going to go tonight, and then I didn't go.
Got it. Great. And then tonight, we're recording this Saturday. You'll hear this on Sunday afternoon. They beat the Cavs in an excellent win. So let's talk first about the Cavs game, and then we can talk about the other ones if there's anything for it. Just a banner performance from Joel Embiid, a 40-point triple-double where he looked phenomenal. He didn't shoot the ball well at all against the Thunder. He had a wrist thing. He said he just woke up with it hurting one day, which is, I can relate to that. You and I are getting older. Dan is aging in reverse. You and I are getting older, and sometimes we'll just, I will wake up and something hurts me, and I don't know why it hurts me. And Joel just woke up with a sore wrist the other day, and sometimes I sleep wrong, and my neck hurts, and the other day he woke up and his wrist hurt. But tonight he shot the ball incredibly. He had an unbelievable dunk. Can you tell me, where do you think this ranks and his best dunks of all time, and what would name your top 3 favorite Joel dunks, and where would this rank?
It's hard. I mean, I have like recency bias, so I feel like this one is like the best one, but it's also because like this one is coming like in his MVP season, like in this time, like when he's playing with like this vigor, and like now James Harden is coming. So like if you put it all in perspective, it's like this is the dunk that's starting the next wave of Sixers basketball. Like this dunk is starting our championship run. Like let's go. But other than that, I'm not like a good dunk connoisseur. Like I know that there are good Joel dunks, but I don't know if I can pull them out of the top of my head.
Okay. The ones that come to mind for me are the one on Baines in the playoffs. Remember, became the confetti game. Ben Simmons, you'll remember him, was a Sixer. They were running fast break. It's a game that went to overtime on the Bellinelli shot. But Simmons threw him like a behind the back pass. And then he ripped the mask off and screamed at the crowd. It was an incredible dunk. It was unbelievable. That was a great dunk. That might be my favorite one, if not for the way that game and that series ended. And then there was one on John Collins a couple of years ago. Excellent dunk. There was one his rookie year on Nene, which was a great one.
Is it weird that I have more recollection of Furkan threes than Joel dunks?
Yes, I think
I have one Joel dunk burned in my mind, and I have two Furkan threes burned into my mind. So there's that.
So there's the Portland Furkan three. What other one?
The Milwaukee one.
Oh, the Milwaukee one's a good one.
That's the one where I got on TV.
Oh, that's right. Where you're pumping your fist.
Yes.
When we had nobody healthy and we almost beat them.
Yes.
That was a great one.
And then that's when Giannis like sat in the middle of the court. That game.
Yeah. That's right.
I hear your dog playing in the back.
Rainey's in the crate right now, and she's deciding to squeak her pink bone. And
it's a live pod.
We
have an audience.
Yeah, we do. She remembers that dunk as well, or that three as well. So anyway, this was an incredible Joel game, and the whole team seems very invigorated. I saw somebody tweeted that one of the additions, or one of the things that happens with the Morey trade, is that the GM really sends a message that he believes in the team to go out and try to win, and that's an incredibly cool thing. And I think it's a message. And I think Maxey has looked great. Tobias is playing well. It's a really good time. And did you notice anything else tonight from the win against Cleveland? Cleveland's a really good team, and the Sixers are obviously playing. They don't have Seth or Drummond, and BBall Paul is playing backup center. Any other thoughts from the win?
I don't know if this comes into the GM has belief in me, but I thought Matisse was incredible tonight. He had 6 steals, just so active on the ball. I don't even know how many points he has. That's not where he makes his impact, but I'm wondering if he's it was very well reported that we would not give him up, that he was off the table. And I think, knowing that your team refuses to include you has to kind of, like you said, light a fire under your ass and be like, well, I got to prove to them why I belong here and why they wanted to keep me here so badly. And I thought he was really, really good on defense tonight.
I really like him, and I'm so happy that they didn't trade him. And it seems, Keith had for a little while that they really were not going to include him in a Harden trade. I really wonder if at 255, if Sean Marks had said, it's Matisse or you don't get Harden, if Daryl Morey actually wouldn't have done it. I am inclined to say that he would have done it just to get Harden. But I think it shows you how important he was, that's sort of the line that he drew. But I think it's hugely important that he's here. I just think that, some people want to start Danny instead of Matisse. I don't know. I think Matisse is the starter here. I think you play Danny 20, 25 minutes, but I think Danny's defense has slipped a little bit this year, and you can still play him enough minutes for his shooting and his still solid defense, and just the way that Matisse makes plays. Do you have an opinion on that? Like, do you think Matisse is that fifth starter there with the like Harden, Maxey, Tobias, Joel quartet? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I tend to think so because just like you said, the way he makes plays, like if Matisse is getting deflections and steals, like you want that first unit on the floor as much like to take advantage of those things versus, you want the deflection to go to Maxi for the break. Like you don't want it to go to whoever like Shake. Like it's not the same like guarantee of a point. And I just think they have been playing really well together. So I think that Matisse should stay in the starting lineup. And Danny's like, he's been around. He knows what this is. Like he's not gonna care.
And there's no reason you have to close that way every night. If Danny's hot and if Matisse is, in foul trouble or whatever, I don't think either of those guys have an ego where you have to worry about it.
And that's the beauty of having Matisse still here is that you have the flexibility to like play with the lineups and do those kind of things. Where if he was gone, you wouldn't. So
yeah,
you would have to play Danny for defense because you wouldn't really have another good perimeter defender.
And I would really worry about that. Like I would feel like we would really need a buyout guy who could play some adequate defense over there, because then you're playing Tobias on the perimeter too much on defense. And listen, whatever. Like I wouldn't, as long as we kept Tyrese and had Harden and Embiid, I would be thrilled at this point. I would say that it's worth it. But just the fact that we kept Matisse, I'm really excited about it.
Just better this way than.
For sure. So what do you think about Paul Reed getting a crack at these backup center minutes? I was surprised. I thought that Bassey was going to be first up at that, because it seemed like Doc was very hesitant to trust him. Of course, BBall Paul goes out there against Oklahoma City and absolutely whiffs on a reverse dunk on a fast break. But outside of that, has played really well in his first two games after the trade. What have you thought about it? I mean, he's played really well. He has really good defensive instincts, and he's a good rebounder and defender. Are you surprised at this? And do you think he'll like continue on with the job?
I am surprised because it seemed in the very beginning of the season, it seemed like they were going to give Paul Reed more of a run. And then Bassey kind of took over. He had that like one incredible game, and then he was kind of the guy, and Paul was with the Blue Coats and you didn't see him much, but now it seems like he's the guy. So I don't really know what is influencing this decision making by Doc, like what is making him choose, Paul over Charles Bassey. But I think he's been playing well. He's so active on the boards and has no fear and just like dives for balls and is like a maniac. It's kind of fun and chaotic, and I kind of like it. There was that one play tonight that was like so ugly with this like deflection to deflection to deflection, and Paul was all over like everything, and then it ended up, I don't know if it was a George or a Furcon, but it ended up coming out with like a 3-pointer just because like he wouldn't stop. And I don't know, that's not like beautiful basketball, but there's value in that.
I wonder, like, he's a good lob threat, and like Harden plays great with guys who can just go up and get lobs. And, because I'm sure that part of the calculus right now is like who can play backup five when Harden's running the unit when Joel sits. And I think Bassey would be fine at that too, but Paul is such a wild card, like he's just such randomness, neither of them, I don't think you're relying on their jump shot right now. But the ceiling, I think, of, defensive activity is way higher with BBall Paul. And I love giving him a look. And obviously we are biased because he's a friend of the show. But I think it's great. Do you have anything? The Suns game feels like it was a million years ago. It was before the trade deadline. I mean, who gives a shit? Do you have anything? They lost that game. They're an incredible team, and it was the day before the trade deadline. Joel was really good, and they lost. Anything?
No, I don't can't even remember it. I didn't go. It was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. When was it?
Tuesday, I think.
Tuesday. I don't know what I was doing, but
we hope you enjoyed it.
I guess I watched it on TV. I don't really know.
People
So I have
were
no
probably-
thoughts on it.
People
In
were probably talking
conclusion.
about Mikal Bridges, and his
Speaking
mom.
of the Phoenix Suns, Jordy saw Booker and Chris Paul at the golf tournament in Phoenix this weekend.
What was that like?
I don't know. He sent me a faraway picture of them.
Were they playing?
No, they were just spectating
Hmm.
yesterday. Yeah.
Did he talk to them?
No, they were in the VIP area behind the ropes. Yeah.
Well, that's nice. Hey,
Mm.
after the Harden trade happened, and Seth Curry went out in that trade, a lot of fans started tweeting at one JJ Redick, current podcaster and ESPN personality. Obviously, Joel loved JJ Redick, and Redick started basically asking JJ to come and play with Harden and Joel. The Sixers now have an open roster spot. JJ retired in between last year and this year. JJ started liking all of these tweets on Twitter about coming to play in Philly with Joel and Harden. And Joel liked one of these tweets about JJ coming and playing. Joel loved playing with JJ, and now he doesn't have his, 3-point specialist in Seth. Obviously, Seth present day is a million times better than JJ present day, who I don't even know if JJ wants to play basketball anymore. Do you have any interest in a flyer on JJ, right? Like, I don't know if he's playing in shape at all. Like, he might just be out, like, any interest in this sort of thing.
I mean, not real interest. Am I interested in the ghost of JJ Redick from 4 years ago coming to play for the Sixers? Like, yes, but I don't think that this current iteration of JJ Redick is that. I just think we should let JJ and Joel just be buddies that don't play basketball together anymore, and we can find someone else who can shoot 3-pointers.
Yeah, for me, it's like, if they strike out on everybody else and JJ actually like wants to come back and like break a sweat and do this again just to make Joel happy, like, sure, I guess, like, they shouldn't rely on him in any real way. Like, this doesn't, he didn't look good at the end of his, last year with Dallas. Like, he got hurt a lot. I
forgot he went to Dallas.
And he got so mad about it.
New Orleans.
Do you
Yeah.
remember that? He was with New Orleans,
Yes.
and then they said they were gonna buy him out, and then he got really mad at
and he talked about it on his podcast.
David Griffin talked about it on his podcast. Like, people seem to like him on First Take. I don't know.
I see a lot of clips. I don't watch them, but I see a lot of clips of JJ on First Take, and I'm just like, great, this is great.
Feels like what he should be doing at this point.
Yeah.
God bless. Doc talked about staggering. Doc Rivers says that they'll likely be looking at the best combination of duos that they have between Harden, Embiid, Harris, and Maxey. Certainly seemed like the thing that he should do. Lots of people.
I wasn't aware he knew about staggering players. I didn't think he knew what that was.
It seems like new information. So we'll see. We are going to take an ad break here. After this, we're going to talk about more stuff on the Harden trade. We're going to give possibly our final thoughts on Ben Simmons and his career in Philadelphia. Our final thoughts for this episode, certainly.
Yeah.
And then do our 2-week update on the standings, and then predict the games for this week and get out of here. We'll be right back. We're back. So finally, Joel talked about the Harden thing.
I died.
Well, first, let's talk about what he said about Harden. And first, Danny Green talked about, they asked him about his reaction to the Harden trade. He said, "We're just happy to have an all-star point guard who wants to play." Great.
Subtle
digs. Joel said a lot of excitement about Harden. He said that he and Harden have already chatted, and both guys are excited to get going. He's the best player he's ever had the chance to play with so far in his career. And then there's the video today of Harden getting in off the jet. Did you see this?
Yes, I did.
Yes. And Daryl embracing him so lovingly. Harden has cornrows. He looks excellent, and just giving Daryl a big hug, and Daryl just looks so great. I think Spike
Daryl's really tall. I didn't
he's so
realize
tall.
Daryl Morey was so tall.
Had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
also have some questions about the logistics of the travel. So I had read that Harden to Houston when he stopped playing with the Nets. He was like, deuces, I'm going back home to Houston. So then I was
that
like,
was in
oh,
the Ramona piece. Yeah.
yeah. And so I was like, oh, he took the plane from Houston. But then they were saying that him and Paul Millsap were on the plane and then they got in the van to go get their physicals. So did they take a plane from Brooklyn? It's not that far.
Oh, what a good question. Oh, so you
It's like
think this?
it's not far. It's like a 45-minute train ride. So you don't need a plane.
You think that this video of him getting off the plane, Paul Millsap was in this plane?
I don't know. I read that I saw something and it was like, and then Paul was there and they got in a van together to go to the facility to get their physicals.
Hmm.
But maybe they were on different planes or I don't know.
Because
I
you would
also don't
think,
know if this is like sourced information. This is like things I saw on Twitter. It's like,
because you would think Harden lives full time in Houston, but he had a bunch of stuff probably in Brooklyn as well after that
right.
trade. I don't
So
know.
I don't know. Where do you think he'll live?
Harden?
Yeah.
He'll probably buy Simmons' house with the Simmons the Savage thing.
Simo the
Yeah.
Savage. And the candy room. James Harden would like a candy room, I think.
Yeah, in Morristown. I don't know.
Are there any good strip clubs in Morristown?
Oh, I know this. This is definitely something I know. Yeah, there's two. Yeah, this is my wheelhouse. Morristown strip clubs are there's two really good ones. So is it sinking in for you that I mean, so I think that they're obviously going to do a press conference, Daryl and Harden, I'm sure Doc. It's just very surreal that Harden is she's walking around in the
Oh, that's how that is.
That's what that is. She just readjusted.
Oh, good. I hope she's happy.
I don't know. But it's just I was thinking about this earlier that just like a guy who's a no doubt first ballot Hall of Famer on a contender currently deciding I actually want to play on the Sixers. And I know that the main reason was Daryl and then also it was Joel, but deciding I actually want to be in Philadelphia is a tremendous thing, is incredibly cool. Like, has that sunk in for you? And like, how does it feel for you? Like that this is where we're at and that like we got one of those guys to be with Joel and to be with Maxi and like, it's just so cool.
Yeah, it's not every day that someone wants to come play here. Like I mean, I guess Bryce Harper was the other big one. Like someone wanted to come here and it's very exciting when someone wants to come here. And I think that James like knows what he's getting into. Like he knows that this is Embiid's team. This isn't his team.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you came here thinking anything else, you're just stupid. So I think that he's like willing to play that role and I think it's going to be really good. But it hasn't sunk in. Like, I think it's going to be really weird when he plays for the Sixers. Like I saw they're selling the jerseys today and they like keep showing like basically like tribute videos at the Wells Fargo Center during games. Like, I guess to hype people up for his arrival, like people aren't excited. So it's just going to be weird. There hasn't been like a guy like this that like people were like anxiously anticipating their arrival. It's kind of like when Joel like played for the first time, honestly. Like everyone was waiting for this moment and it was weird. It's like, oh shit, he's finally here.
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, and the thing you're saying is right, because like he's an MVP caliber guy, he's an all NBA caliber guy, but it's Joel City without a doubt. Like it's not even close. For any sport. Like Joel's the biggest athlete in the city, and I think it's Harper just won MVP of baseball, but I don't think it's any question like who the most popular athlete in the city is. Um, so, but part of the reporting in recent days has been that like Harden wanted a setup where he did not have to be the lead scorer, the lead guy on the team anymore. And that was part of why he wanted to go to Brooklyn, was that he didn't want to have to do the thing he had been doing with Houston. And then when Kyrie refused the vaccine and then KD got hurt, it was like one of these guys is doing it voluntarily, where it's like, I'm not even getting the help I thought I was signing up for here. So, I think that he knows full well, and he knows Daryl well enough to know that like he's coming into Joel's situation. And Joel, I don't think is the type of guy to like demand the spotlight enough to like not share it with Harden. And I think everybody's going into this. And, Zach Lowe and other people have said that like Harden, I think like this needs to be it for him. Like, I don't think that Harden is in the position where he can do this sort of thing again. Like he has done this now twice within like 14 months. And
Yeah.
we made fun of it a couple of days ago that like him not wanting to make the trade request while making the trade request was like him knowing how that looks. Like he wants it to work out, like, and now he's back with his guy and he has the MVP of the league, and it's like it should work out because he's incredible and he's with the best player, and like it's time to make it work. So I'm really excited for it. Great.
Is it happening on Tuesday, do we think?
Him playing? I think so. I think
so.
In that video, his hamstring looked good when he hugged Daryl. So
yeah. It's a big hamstring motion, the hug. Really a strain on your hamstrings.
I've hurt my hamstring before hugging people. So let's get to Joel's quotes about Ben. They asked Joel just sort of about the Ben situation. He said, I'm happy I'm not going to be answering any more questions on that subject. He wishes everybody that has moved on the best. And then that's the last thing he said about it. And that was it. No. He says he and Ben Simmons did not talk after the trade. I don't care, honestly. He says the whole situation is unfortunate, specifically that they never won in the playoffs. He says it's disappointing that all the winning he and Simmons did were able to do became secondary. It's unfortunate that I guess having his own team and being a star was more important. He just like was so over it. They asked him before the trade deadline, effectively like, are you gonna campaign to bring Ben back if he doesn't get traded? And Joel was like, no, like we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but he was like, I'm not doing that. He was like, I don't have to babysit Tyrese. I don't have to babysit Tobias. I don't have to babysit Matisse. Like, I'm not going. And he also was like, I didn't do anything fucking wrong to this guy. He was like, I made a little comment, which I make about everybody else, and everybody else handles it fine. And like, he was just so over it, and like, it was very clear that Joel thought that the whole Ben situation was total bullshit. And so, like, when you look back on Ben's career in Philadelphia, like tenure, like, how do you feel about it? Because he was very good for a while here. Like, he was clearly very good, but his personality was very strange because he never embraced us in any real way. It was very clear that he was not an athlete that got it in that way. And he had this weird thing where he had a refusal to just participate in parts of his game. And when people would allege that he should try to do that, he would be arrogant about it, and he would pretend that to even suggest that he should try to, you're stupid and you should have, you don't play basketball, you know. And then fans, including me at some point, would agree with that, you know. And I would just talk about the things he was good at, which he was great at, you know. But in the playoffs it became a real issue, until it became an insane issue last summer. And it just became too much, you know, and the excuses became too much. And when you add it all up, you know, like I hit a breaking point certainly against Atlanta, and I just like all the way out. And like when we could trade him for Harden, I was dying to do it for sure. And I know that you were less so at the time. But it's just such a strange career, you know. Like Joel, I think, tried to make it work. I don't think they ever got especially close, but I think that he wanted to make it work because he knew that he was really good. And Ben turned himself into an incredible defender, and he deserves credit for that because he was not that coming out of school. But just an enigma as a player. And, you know, I do think he'll be good in Brooklyn, but I think he'll have the same exact problems because they are problems that he imposes on himself. And you know, I don't want to, like, the mental health stuff, I'm not interested in talking about, honestly, because like it's not a problem anymore. And like I'm not interested. It's like, you know, that's for another podcast in Brooklyn. And like, I'm not, you know, his money in escrow, fucking no thanks. I'm not, you know, handle it someplace else. I'm not doing it. You know, go ahead. So tell me how you feel.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. Like, we're in such a good place right now, but it's like crazy how like the expectations were when Ben came and we had Joel and Ben and all, like, then even to throw like Markel into it, like all of these number one picks, and like this is going to be the nucleus of this like next great dynasty. And then everything fell apart, and like somehow we managed to get James Harden out of it is like very strange trajectory for the whole thing. And like you said, like Ben, because like every player has holes in their game, right? Like no one is perfect. So you're always like, yeah, well, they're not great at this, but they're great at this, and it's fine. But then when that thing that they're not great at is literally like scoring, putting a ball through the net, which is how you score points in a basketball game, then it becomes like a bit of an issue. Also, when you're paying them like a gazillion dollars a year, and they're supposed to be like the cornerstone of one of the cornerstones of your franchise. That is another problem. And then, yeah, I don't think like Ben ever really wanted to be here. Like he never bought into Philly as a whole, like the way that Joel would always. And I don't hate to compare everyone to Joel because he's like on another tier of like the kind of athlete that you want in your city. But like I can't think of like times when Ben was like, yeah, like I really love playing with these fans. Like I don't ever recall like quotes like that, the way that Joel talks about the fans all the time and like playing in the city. And even like, I mean, you've definitely heard stuff good and bad from Tobias, and like pretty much good from Tyrese. Like they all talk about like playing. I think playing in Philadelphia is kind of a special thing if you buy into it. And I don't think that Ben ever did. And like he doesn't spend his off season. He never spent the off season here. He never like did much around like town. Not that he has to go out, but just like talking about things around town, or like I don't know, maybe he was doing.
It's not that hard if you like. It's not that hard to pander a little bit if you want to.
Yeah, there was none of that. Like,
yeah,
and like maybe there was stuff behind the scenes and things I'm forgetting, but like I even just think of like during the playoffs last year, like when Joel set up that like viewing party at the men's shelter, like just like little stuff like that. That's like, hey, you're in my city. I want to take care of you. Like we're all in this together. Like there was never any of that from him. And it's kind of like the idea that he always like wanted to have one foot out the door anyways. But that's all also probably hindsight, just like looking back, like never buying in at all. But yeah, I don't like wish bad things on him. I also think he has, like you said, I'm not going to touch the mental health, but I think that there's like some complicated family situations and dynamics. And like, I think there were other factors and stressors in his life other than basketball that might have made it difficult to focus on basketball. But yeah, I think he'll be good in Brooklyn. I am interested to see there how they split like point guard duties between like Kyrie and Ben, because Ben does not like to be told he's not a point guard, and Kyrie actually is a point guard. So I don't know how that'll work because both of them like to have the ball in their hands, and both of them have like considerable egos about it. So I think that will be interesting. But other than that, I think he's like a fine fit there. The thing I think is really funny, and I'm sure you've seen this, is like this new discourse about how the Sixers have gotten like fleeced in this trade somehow. And there's this like ridiculous video of Ben making passes in summer league that people are like, can't, like this guy is gonna play with Kyrie and Durant. And I'm like, this is literally, the baseline says like Las Vegas summer league. Like, do you know how long ago this was? And also like who he's playing against? Like he's not making these passes against like Kawhi Leonard. Like this is fucking summer league.
He's
Like
passing
it's just
to Rashawn Holmes. That's how long
it's like
it is.
wild. It was like the way the narrative now is very funny to me. But like maybe he'll become that guy in Brooklyn. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me because we always say Ben is going to be incredible wherever he goes next. But I just think that video is really funny.
He's gonna make nice passes in Brooklyn. He's gonna. It's fine. He'll always make nice passes. He's made nice passes forever. Like that's not what I'm worried about.
What if he starts shooting free throws? Then I will be shocked. But
listen, you know, after Atlanta, if he had said, if they had like him and Clutch had just been like, hey, there's no getting this back. Like the city hates me. I hate it here. Like, I think there's no coming back from this. And I want a new situation. No hard feelings. I won't ever play another game here because I think there's just no getting it back. And I think it would be a really horrible situation that I can't get back. And I'm never coming back. That's it. I would have understood. Like, I really get that. Like, I get that on a human level, not wanting to come back in that arena. I understand. Like, that would fucking suck. I understand. What I hated about it was the hundreds of excuses throwing everybody under the bus that he did, blaming Joel and Doc and everybody else, which he did his whole career here, which was that it was everybody else's fault and everybody else was a moron and everybody else, you know what I mean? Like that's really where it became an issue for me. It was like, if you want to get to a new situation, I get it. Like, it got bad in Atlanta, and it like, I do think he created this situation. I do think that refusing to improve his offense for 5 years was his fault and like all of that. But like after Atlanta, if he wanted to leave Philadelphia, that's his prerogative. And like,
yeah,
that's totally fine. And maybe I would have wanted to too, but like, don't like, you know, say fuck off to everybody else in the process just to make your point, you know?
Yeah. I also think, and I agree with you, like I wouldn't want to come back probably, but I also think if he had just come back and played like 2 fine games, like everything would be fine. Like, I don't think people were going to boo him all season because of that pass in Atlanta. Like, and he would have had to like all of that like discourse over the summer would have had to not happen. But if he was just like, yeah, that like just played, I don't think there would have been an issue. It was all of the talk and all of the stuff and all of the everything that created everything.
Immediately after Game 7, if he had gone, I was horrible in this series. Like, it's on me. I need to be way better. Blah 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 blah. He could have totally come back and whatever. But after all of the shit talk over the summer, it would have taken a lot more than a couple games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And that's just not him to ever say like, we're talking this about is on me.
We're talking about a different person. Yeah. It's like, we're talking about,
unlike,
he might as well flown, it's like.
Unlike Joel, who was like, I was terrible last night and I wasn't going to ever play that bad again. And meanwhile, he had like 25 points and like 14 rebounds and it's ridiculous.
I'm telling you, I will always thank him because after the Atlanta series, I was so incredibly done watching him play for us ever again. And he's the only person that made it happen. He's the only one. Because the fucking Sixers were begging him to play all year. And Danny Green's on his fucking podcast saying, let's get him back in here to play. And Benny Boy saying, I'm never doing it. I won't do it. Thank you, Ben. Thank you. So what I really love in this, and the reason we'll never be done talking about him is because we now have a gigantic rivalry between Sixers and the Nets. And we'll just see what happens because it's just, now March 10th, the Nets play at the Sixers. Who knows if Ben will play in that game? But that will be, people are saying it's going to be like when LeBron went back to Cleveland.
Is it worse for him if he plays or if he doesn't play? Like, should he just rip the Band-Aid off?
Well, eventually he's going to have to play. But it's way worse if he plays. I mean, because he's going to have to be on the court and it's going to be a fucking nightmare.
But will it be worse? But then, like, would it be worse if he like is clearly just scared to play in Philadelphia and then that's the media discourse? Like Ben is afraid to play in Philadelphia even for another team. And then like what happens if we play Brooklyn in the playoffs? Is that going to be when he comes? He's got to get it over with.
If I'm him and I'm playing at that point, like, he's ramping up or whatever it is. So if he's playing by then, I think you have to play. You have to just play in that game. Like, because it looks too bad if you don't play.
It looks really bad if you don't play.
It looks really bad if you don't play in that game.
Because
you almost have to miss the game before or the game after. Because if you just miss that one game, it looks rough.
Just rest. This is a planned rest game for Ben.
I feel like before that game, we need to get all the fans in one room and be like, hey, I know we're going to do a lot of chanting and a lot of booing, which is fine, but we need a line here because we don't want to have like cops involved. Like,
I bet you that's one of the games where they like put those papers on every seat that like reminds you of the NBA fan code of conduct and like that you can't throw things on the court.
Oh my God.
Like they put it on the Jumbotron, but they're going to like hand it out individually as people walk into the Wells Fargo Center.
I mean, he's going to guard Joel at some point.
Stop. Oh my God. Can we just talk about Joel explaining his tweet for like 5 seconds because it's so funny.
That smile on his face is so good. That mischievous smile. And he just said, I just saw a picture on the internet. Guy in the suit. He looked great. He had swag. It's great.
It was a great fit. The suit fit him really nice. He's a handsome guy, I thought. Just send this out.
Who is that guy? Like, can we find him? Have him on the podcast?
I mean, there's his original. I wonder if he still has his Instagram because, like, you can see his Instagram handle and the screenshot of the meme.
Does he follow Liberty Ballers? That's the one way.
Slip in the DMs.
The one way. Oh man, it's the best. Well, I can't wait for the Harden press conference. It's gonna be great.
It's gotta be like probably Monday
or Tuesday, I guess. Yeah.
They cleared physicals tonight, so the trade is official.
It's gonna be like are they gonna ask Paul Millsap anything? It's gonna be like when Jason Richardson was at Andrew Bynum's press conference.
Yeah.
All right. We have standings to update here. We have 2 weeks of standings because we were not here last Sunday. So what is the update on the standings? And Dan has mailed in his ballot. There's a lot of
Right.
mailer fraud, but we have gotten in his ballot. And we'll go through that.
Okay, so I'm on a bit. So we haven't taught, I guess. So the 2 weeks ago, I was 0-3. It's terrible.
Yikes.
And then you got, because we thought they were just gonna win everything, and they didn't. And then you guys were 1-2. And then last week, I was 3-1, Dan was 3-1, and you were 4-0. Because you had the Phoenix loss. We all said Ben would be traded, and then OKC and Cleveland wins.
Wow.
So the current standings, with all of that into consideration, me and you are tied at 34 and 23, and Dan is at 31 and 26.
Okay. So how many games back would Dan be? 3 or 2?
3.
2? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. This week, the Sixers play home against Boston. Boston has been playing really well lately. And then they play at Milwaukee, and then they hit the All-Star break. So they don't have games for a while there. And that's it. And then this could be the debut of James Harden. We think it will be at some point this week. I think hopefully it will be Tuesday against Boston. I'm going to act as if it will be Tuesday in my predictions. Dan sent in his predictions. He predicted 2 wins. Dan is absolutely drunk with happiness with this Harden thing. These are
He
2
can't
tough
be
games.
like contained.
No, can't be contained. I'm going 2 wins as well. Boston and Milwaukee, 2 tough games, but I got to do it. Emily, what about you?
I'm also going 2 wins. It will surprise no one that is what I'm doing. I just can't. They're like, they're big games, they're hard games, but like those are the games when we're this good that I can't pick them to lose, because it just feels like I don't have faith in them then, and I do have faith in them. So
I agree.
2 wins.
Well, welcome to the Sixers, James Harden. Good luck on your exam, Dan. Have fun at the bachelor party, Jordy. And that's it. We love you. Subscribe to the YouTube. Thank you for everything, Drew, under whom all things are possible. Be safe and be great. Follow us everywhere. Third and Girl with underscores. Gastro Blues Pod. Steve J. Lippman. D.A. Peltz 13. That's it. Goodbye.
Goodbye.